3D printing company MakerBot brought in a new CEO in March, and since then, it's had an interesting time. On the bright side, it opened a new factory in Brooklyn's Industry City neighborhood. On the other hand, it's also had multiple rounds of cuts, most recently laying off 20% of the team. We visited the new facility back in September and talked to the new CEO about the company's challenges and where it goes from here.
I was tracking MakerBot for many, many years, even before the acquisition of Stratasys. I was really excited about MakerBot. I was the one running around the hallways at Stratasys looking at MakerBot. I was like, guys, are you watching what's going on here in the maker space, in the sub $5,000 desktop 3D printing space? It was very, very disruptive. And the thing that excites me the most about MakerBot within Stratasys is just that disruptiveness. And I came on board, and the only question I kept asking my CEO was, where can I take this company? Where can I take this disruptiveness? Is it going to be controlled, or am I free to do whatever I believe we can do? And the answer has always been consistently, we can do whatever we want, we can be as disruptive as we want, and that's exactly what we intend to do. And I think it's very commendable within Stratasys that we have that sort of mindset. That's pretty cool.
So when you say that you want it to be as disruptive as possible, what direction do you want to take that disruptiveness in?
We address three markets. We address the consumer market, we address the educational market, and we address the professional market. And so the consumer market is an interesting market. We have our platforms at roughly 550 stores across the nation, and we're excited about that. But the traction we're seeing in the consumer space is not as significant as we previously believed.
Okay.
The market is still not ripe to mass consumer market penetration.
Right. There's not like a 3D printer in every home yet.
Not yet, but I truly believe there will be. But there's things we need to do to get there, and we're working on that from a roadmap perspective. There's the educational space. We're very excited about that, and that's really, we're seeing a lot of traction there. We have printers in over 5,000 schools across the nation. We're synonymous with 3D printing. It's pretty cool. Teachers call us up and they're like, hey, we want a MakerBot. We don't want to make a 3D printer, we want a MakerBot, which is pretty cool. And we have a lot of things we're doing there, whether it's on the printer side and whether it's in the ecosystem. We have apps like the Shape Maker. We have expanded the community for the teachers and helped teachers better educate students on how to use 3D printing in classrooms. We've done a lot of stuff in that space. And finally, in the professional space, and there too, we're working very closely with Stratasys.
Consumer adoption isn't quite where you wanted it to be.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think are some of the things that have maybe made that the case, and how can that be addressed?
I think a lot of it has to do with education. We have to address, how do you address a population? How do you address an audience, or the value a 3D printer can bring to them? And we're doing that through the educational push that we're doing at schools, right? And the analogy to that—
So these different things kind of also feed into each other.
They do. Like the computer labs that you used to have in the 80s. I remember mine at school, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have computer labs anymore because everyone's walking around with PCs, iPads, and the lot. So you don't have those sort of, 10 years later, you had that PC migration. And 3D printing, I see a very similar analogy. So you'll start in schools, you'll educate that population, that future workforce, and they'll take it to their homes, or they'll take it to their workplaces. And sort of 10 years down the line, that will allow for that expansion in that audience.
Before you came on, especially, it was sort of a little bit of a bumpy period for the company. There were a couple other CEOs left, and then when you came on, there was also some restructuring and layoffs. I mean, do you feel like that's a period that you guys have kind of gotten past at this point?
The answer is yes. You have to understand the context of what has happened at MakerBot over the last 2 years. MakerBot grew phenomenally fast at a very, very short period of time. And it's extremely commendable. We're talking like 15 million in 2012 to roughly 115 in 2014. And so when you grow at that pace, which is significant, you're bound to have that bumpy road along the way. You're bound to do those sort of things. They're almost inevitable. So the key is, okay, can you identify what you did wrong? Can you address it and have that roadmap to fix it, and then move on to the next level? And absolutely, I think at this point we definitely are doing the right things. We're focusing on the right things, and all the indicators are looking positive. So I think yes, we're definitely past that. But we still have a ways to go. We're not done with that. We are in a very strong position as opposed to like a year ago, for sure.
Mm-hmm. The last thing I wanted to ask you about was, we are here in this new factory that you guys opened, just about a month ago. I mean, do you want to tell me a little bit about the factory?
Yeah, so we're very proud to have opened up this factory. We have 160,000 square feet, 140 people on the production line, and we're thinking big, and we're building ourselves for future capacity. And that's exactly why we've launched this factory. So we have a lot more capacity today than ever before, and we're ready for the future.
Is there anything about this factory that you think is just particularly cool that you want to call out?
Yeah, the jigs and fixtures part of this factory. Again, coming from Stratasys, there's an application called jigs and fixtures under the realm of what we call rapid manufacturing, which basically is you print things for the purposes of helping you in the manufacturing line. That's the disruptiveness that I was referring to, right? That you could do a jig or a fixture using a MakerBot at a few $1,000 printer, as opposed to this perception that you can only do that if you have very high-end 3D printing equipment. And that was, to me, the biggest thing that struck me when I was walking through the production line.